She departed with the front door ajar, leaving echoes of her high-heeled footsteps on the wood floor, growing fainter as she advanced deeper into the living room, announcing herself in that casual, indifferent tone as if nothing could perturb her. "I'm back," she called out lightly. Unaware of what was in store for her, not yet. I remained mute, not even turning to face her initially. Seated at the dining table, my elbows propped, I was fixed on a solitary piece of paper. Although many were present, others perhaps, this one lay squarely in the table's center, the one that held significance. A still shot from a security camera, Brent and her faces, both too near, both displaying smiles. She halted when she encountered it, mid-stride, as if someone had hit pause on her existence. Still, I refrained from looking at her. I heard the faint sound of her breath hitch in her throat. Not loud, not theatrical, merely sharp and unattractive. A moment of quiet followed, then her voice broke the stillness. "What's this?" It was a pointless inquiry. She was already aware. At last I lifted my gaze to her. Her makeup remained unblemished. This detail troubled me more than it should have. Her eyelashes were impeccably curled, her foundation undisturbed despite the activities she engaged in merely an hour prior. However, her shirt bore a wrinkle at the shoulder that didn't align with how she typically wore her seatbelt. There was something about this crease that spoke more truthfully than anything she was about to utter. "Take a seat," I instructed. She blinked, mirroring a deer caught in headlights. I observed her grip tighten on her handbag strap, as if she were about to flee. But where could she go? The door stood open behind her, flooding the room with sunlight, suggesting that the world still adhered to reason. Once more, I gestured. "Sit." She moved forward hesitantly, cautiously. I could almost hear her contemplating, considering how to manipulate the situation, what she could claim, what I might not perceive, the extent of my awareness. Yet she complied, sitting opposite me. "Dear friends, if you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you." Her digits tapped nervously against the table edge. She hadn't received anything from me. It wasn't necessary. She leaned forward, drew nearer to the picture, and scrutinized it intensely. Her nostrils expanded, not from remorse or dread, but wrath, because she had been unmasked, because I had observed her, recorded it, printed it, and enclosed it within a frame with time-stamped evidence. Yet she persisted. "Honey," she murmured. Her tone grew softer, descending into the quiver she'd often employed when she was being dishonest. "It's not as it appears." She attempted to grab my hand, withdrew it from me. Her fingers wavered in midair, embarrassed. "Shall we try that tale once more?" I asked. Her jaw stiffened. "You're spying on me now?" I remained expressionless. No movement, not a flicker of an eyelid. I provided her with the silence she despised most, the kind that left her in solitude with her reflection. "Do you think I'm unfaithful? Is that what this is about?" Her voice grew more assertive, indignant. Every time she switched from cornered to callous, as if altering footwear. I allowed her outburst to pass. Then I pulled a new document from beneath the pile and moved it forward. It was a hotel bill. The date was Thursday. Room number 314. Brent's name was listed. Another slip of paper followed, displaying screenshots of messages. Hers read, "You stirred emotions within me I hadn't experienced in years." Another image appeared, showing her exiting Brent's car, 5 blocks from our home. She wore the same attire she had claimed was stained with wine at her colleague's baby shower. Leaning closer, I finally spoke again. Initially, I believed I didn't need to snoop. However, I erred. She remained silent this time. I observed as she started to fracture, not shatter. No, not weep. That would have been a human response. Instead, she went blank. Emotion disappeared from her visage as if someone had flipped a switch, replaced by something more chilling, something rehearsed. "All right," she said, her voice lifeless and soft. "So, now what?" "That sentence. So, now what?" Not an apology. The end has come. No way to deny it or claim it as a mistake. No remorse, no explanation, just that. As if I was expected to decipher the conclusion of the secret story she had penned without my knowledge. I glanced at her. The woman who used to prepare my morning coffee, the one who phoned me during lunch hours just to express her missed me, the one who held my hand in hospital waiting rooms, the very same woman who wept in my arms on the day her dog passed away. This is the woman who had recently grown quite acquainted with a man signing off his emails with warm regards. I remained silent, and in that instant, I understood. She was not concerned about losing me. Rather, she was anxious about what I might retain from this situation. She did not sob, she did not plead, she did not even feign reaching for an excuse. Instead, she sat there, now with crossed arms, as if waiting for an Uber, as though this turn of events were a minor annoyance I had placed before her during her nail appointments. "You asked me a question," she said again, as if I owed her an answer. "What's next?" I slumped in the chair, seeking a sharp emotion, rage, sorrow, even fear. But all I felt was the hum, the dull vibration in your core when your mind is still shattering, but your body has already left the debris behind. Her gaze didn't seem sad. It seemed irritated. "This is what you've been hiding?" I asked, my voice softer than expected. "Was this it? Deceiving me and sleeping with a man who shares investment advice in group chats?" She cocked her head. "Stop being melodramatic, Mark." Melodramatic. I almost chuckled. Not a genuine laugh. More of a dry, sarcastic sigh when your mind simply gives up trying to comprehend. "That's your reply?" "What do you want me to say?" she retorted. "You've already decided." "No, I found the truth. You merely spent the last 6 months deciding." Then she rose slowly, as if on stage, as if additional height was required to regain control of the room. "You weren't around," she stated flatly. "For months, you consistently worked late and appeared tired and stressed. I attempted to discuss these issues with you, Mark, but you pushed me away. One day there was a change, the subtle gaslighting where I became the antagonist in her affair. Calmly, I stood my ground as you turned off your location, came home without greeting, and avoided eye contact at dinner." She flinched, and for a brief moment, her gaze shifted. The silence between us suddenly felt acute. She whispered that it just happened. I retorted that you allowed it to happen, not once, but repeatedly. In that instant, her facade slipped slightly, and she responded defensively with an "oh, please," before folding her arms again. Brent was listening. He made me feel heard, even though he wasn't flawless. At least, he didn't regard me as a mere roommate. Co-inhabitant. Following all that has transpired, after a decade of fidelity, after shared celebrations, mornings, trips where I hauled her luggage at airports while she scrolled through Instagram, after the miscarriage we experienced together, the nights we wept in quiet solidarity, clinging to one another like anchors. Now I was simply a roommate to her. Apparently, he also didn't seem to mind deceiving his spouse. I commented. That stung her. A subtle twitch betrayed her. She attempted to conceal it, yet it was evident. And for the first time, her voice faltered, not with emotion but with venom. "Very well. You are correct. I erred. But so did you. You distanced yourself from me." She was attempting to rewrite history on the spot, to portray it all as an accident, as if I had left the door open and she simply stumbled out and into Brent's arms. I didn't give her a chance to complete her thought. I produced the manila envelope instead, one of which she was unaware. Inside lay a copy of the text messages Travis had discovered on the burner phone. Next week's yoga retreat notice coincidentally fell on the same dates and city as Brent's conference at the same resort. Her expression turned pale. "I was about to tell you," she admitted hurriedly, hands raised in a defensive gesture. "After your spiritual enlightenment in the hotel hot tub," she bit her lip. The same lips she had kissed me with this morning before she left for an afternoon tryst with another man. "Did you rummage through my things? You looked shocked at me. You're the one who ruined our marriage, Emily. I'm merely picking up the pieces." For a brief moment, we stood in silence. Then she uttered the words that pierced my heart and made everything crystal clear. "If only you had given me more of your attention, perhaps I wouldn't have needed Brent." That was it. The decisive point. The irreversible dot. I didn't know what I anticipated her to say, but certainly not that. The bitter, empty phrase she hurled like an insignificant remark from a cheap soap opera. "If only you had paid more attention to me." She spoke as if she was unquestionably right, as though I had pushed her into the embrace of a wedded man with my silence and data charts, as if I deserved this retribution. A sense of gravity overtook me then, not an instantaneous change, not wrath, merely a deep, unalterable settling. This was no longer bewilderment nor surprise. It was lucidity. "Do you need Brent?" I asked with a neutral tone. "Do you require the man who texts you kitten and misspells definitely?" She scoffed as if I were being childish, as if I were the issue. I won't deal with this from you, she said, reaching for her belongings. No, you're not escaping from this, I responded, maneuvering around the table. Not until you cease lying and accept responsibility for your actions. She halted, spun on her heel. What else do you want me to confess, Mark? I admitted my error, felt lonely, sensed neglect. He was there. It happened. Case closed. No, it recurred, I retorted. You didn't stumble into his bedroom once. You scheduled it. Regularly. You made the reservation as if it were a doctor's appointment. Her lips formed a tight line. She crossed her arms once more, using her familiar weary defense when unwilling to acknowledge wrongdoing. You weren't meeting my needs, she said softly. You haven't for a while now. Instead of telling me you started living dual lives with someone else, I tried communicating with you. No, you replied cryptically. You interspersed vague criticisms amid Netflix shows, expecting me to decipher your feelings while texting him secretively at night under the covers. I advanced nearer. She remained stationary. I offered you everything, Emily. Years of my life, trust, loyalty, and access to my heart. Yet you exploited this to hide your infidelities while plotting clandestine meetings with a man who deceives his children just like you do. Her jaw tightened, but still no remorse or apology was forthcoming, only more of her cold, effective detachment. Then she said something intended to wound me, yet it fell flat. Paraphrased, you scheduled our meeting as if it were a medical appointment. Her lips formed a thin line, and she crossed her arms, employing her habitual tactic to conceal her guilt when faced with the truth. You failed to meet my needs, she whispered softly. This has been going on for quite some time now. Instead of communicating openly, you chose to engage in secret relationships with another person. I tried talking to you. No, you retorted. You sprinkled veiled complaints between episodes of Netflix, anticipating me to decipher your emotions while you texted him covertly at night. As I drew closer, she did not flinch. I gave you my all, Emily. Years of my life, trust, loyalty, and unwavering affection. Yet you manipulated this as a cover for your infidelities while arranging furtive trysts with a man who lies to his children just like you do. Her jaw tightened, but she made no attempt at an apology or even hinted at remorse. Instead, she continued to maintain her emotionless demeanor. And then she said something intended to hurt me, yet it left me indifferent. What you've confirmed is what I had suspected all along. You consistently turned simple matters into burdens, Mark. Each discussion felt like an ordeal. I desired something lighthearted and enjoyable. That's what I was contrasting with. Not love, not ardor. Convenience. You sacrificed a decade for amusement, she said. You neglected me. And perhaps there was some truth in that. Perhaps I did neglect you. But what you failed to grasp, what you never wanted to comprehend, was that you had ceased being yourself long before I stopped noticing, and you didn't give me the opportunity to rescue you. I took a step back, picked up the last piece of proof I hadn't shown her yet, a printout of the text she sent him last weekend. If he discovers this, I'll simply twist it. He's too inactive to leave. I displayed it. She read it. Her mouth slightly gaped, as if, perhaps, she had overstepped this time. Was that amusement, too? I inquired. She remained silent. Her silence conveyed a lot. She didn't utter a word, not even when I displayed the message, nor when I retreated to amplify the quietness into an uncomfortable stillness. The woman who was always verbose during our heated discussions over the thermostat or laundry fell silent. It served me right. Let her experience it. I let the paper fall between us onto the floor. Did you honestly believe I wouldn't discover? I asked, softer now, without any bitterness. The edge was gone. You thought I'd remain, that I'd yield, absorb the blow, and keep up the charade. Still, she avoided my gaze. The self-assured smugness that she usually wore was absent now, replaced by an expression I hadn't seen on her in years, doubt. But it wasn't remorse, only fear of losing dominance. I moved past her towards the counter and took out a small cardboard box hidden under the sink. It wasn't large. It didn't need to be. She turned slowly as she heard the tape tear. "What's that?" she inquired. "Your belongings," I replied. "The ones that were in our room. Your dresser, your wardrobe, the bathroom storage." I filled whatever I could. Her expression contorted. "Are you evicting me?" I corrected, placing the box on the table. "I'm asking you to depart. That's entirely different." She mocked me with a hollow laugh, a vicious, resentful cackle that pierced my heart. "So now you want to play the man?" Following this revelation, her venom returned, the ever-present bitterness she unleashed whenever things didn't go her way. "You can't do this," she retorted angrily. "This is our home, too." "No, it was our home. Or at least it should have been. You turned it into his when you secretly brought him in." "I didn't bring him here," she corrected swiftly. I cocked my head quizzically. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" Her mouth gaped, then shut. She had no script for this moment, no quick wit, no damage control. After so long playing several steps ahead, she forgot what it felt like to be vulnerable. She admitted, her voice barely audible, "I have no place to stay." I suggested, "Then phone your yoga companion. Brent might have an extra room with his wife and children he's been deceiving." Her lips compressed into a tight line. "You're being heartless," she retorted. "Not at all," I countered, meeting her gaze squarely. Harsh would have been betrayal. Harsh would have been deceit for half a year and treating you with disrespect while feigning affection. Harsh would have been manipulating the one who cherished you into doubting yourself. She remained silent. I walked around the table again, past her toward the entrance. I opened the door. "Take the box," I instructed, "and leave." She didn't budge. "Emily," I stressed, my tone sharper now, "don't force me to summon aid for you." Still, she stayed put. Her gaze shifted between the table, the door, and me. She seemed on the verge of tears, but none fell. And I understood it wasn't sorrow, it was dignity. Her self-esteem couldn't bear this defeat. She was losing. For her, this act of betrayal was the most painful kind. She hesitantly advanced, lifting the box with a false air of composure that almost made me queasy. "You'll come to regret this," she mumbled. "No," I replied. "You're just angry because you don't get to depart first." She said nothing in response. She spun around and left, her heels clicking once more, exactly as she had entered, but now there was no more hum in her voice, no swagger in her stride, only silence. I shut the door after her, and for the first time in months, my house felt genuine again. For a long while afterward, I stood motionless with my hands on the doorknob, hoping against hope that she would return to knock, to pound, to scream, to cry, to act. But she didn't. Not even the sound of her car engine could be heard. I refrained from checking if she was still standing outside, waiting for me to reconsider. The portion of myself, the one that pursued her relentlessly, soothed over every dispute, attempted to mend things even when I wasn't the culprit, was nowhere to be found. I stepped back into the kitchen. The envelope remained on the table, half its contents of photographs scattered across the wood, reminiscent of a spill. I scrutinized them once more, not for additional confirmation, but because I still couldn't comprehend how far she had drifted away. The perspectives, the timestamps, the infuriating grins. She appeared content, even somewhat guilty, not hesitant, not conflicted, but content, as if she had finally released a breath she'd held for a decade with me. It left me questioning the authenticity of everything. I grabbed my phone. There were 2 unread messages waiting. "Emily, I have no place to go tonight. Are you genuinely doing this?" A reply from Emily arrived 5 minutes later. "Very well. Enjoy your solitude with your suspicions." Suspicions. That one stung. She had employed that term on multiple occasions in the recent past. Whenever I discussed her timetable, her newfound preference for late gatherings and yoga sessions, her turning her phone screen down during dinner, she'd dismiss me as paranoid, insecure, overbearing, and I accepted it. I ingested that venom with a grin, thinking perhaps I was simply too possessive. Maybe I needed to distance myself, provide space. I detest how foolish I was. I set the phone aside. No response. She could stay in her car for the entire night if she wished. I was done communicating in her tongue, half facts and emotional manipulation disguised as affection. I ascended the stairs, gradually. Each step seemed like a memory trying to climb up my backbone. We had purchased this house jointly. I recalled carrying her over the threshold like an outdated cliché, her laughing and telling me she felt like she was in a movie. We chose the wall colors. We selected the drapes. We quarreled over carpets. We created a life here. And she corrupted it. I opened the bedroom door. Our bed, now mine, remained untouched. Removed her scent from the bed, stripping sheets, pillows, and lavender spray. The trash bag swallowed them all. No washing for me, only elimination. Mattress cover too, her pillow, perfume bottle, nightstand's claim. Her drawer yielded trinkets, lip balm, hair ties, an anniversary necklace, all gone into the bag. Empty room echoed, yet shone with cleanliness. At bed's edge, past midnight, exhausted and restless, I sat. No tears flowed. Expected a breakdown, but only a persistent throb of betrayal lingered. Beneath it, something else stirred. Relief, not joy for this event, but perhaps for its inevitability. In the light of truth's revelation, there were no more deceptions or facades left to maintain. Just me, a lonely road stretching ahead, a night I didn't sleep through. Despite my efforts, sleep evaded me. I found myself sprawled on an empty bed, gazing at the ceiling. The low hum of the fridge downstairs replaced her once audible breaths, the occasional soft snores that could only be heard if you listened closely. I came to realize then that every night, even in slumber, a part of me was attuned to her. In the quietude, all that remained was silence. At 3:17 a.m., I rose. My actions preceded my consciousness. I made my way to the guest room, our planned office space that had never come to fruition. Inside the closet, amidst boxes labeled Mark's stuff, were old journals, notebooks, and backup drives. Hidden within was a leather-bound journal I hadn't touched in years. I opened it. In my script were notes from when Emily and I began dating. She makes me aspire to be more tender. I've never felt seen quite like this before. I almost chuckled, or retched. It was difficult to discern. I continued reading. A particular entry surprised me, penned shortly after our honeymoon. She wept this morning, expressing doubts about deserving me. I vowed to spend the rest of our lives demonstrating her worthiness. I meant it. I had. I truly had. Despite the disputes, financial hardships, years of infertility struggles, and moments where we considered giving up, every word I spoke to her was genuine. Yet she remained unfazed when she ignited a match and set fire to everything we'd built. My phone vibrated at 4:02 a.m. It was Emily again. "I'm staying at Casey's tonight. I need to retrieve my belongings tomorrow. Please do not disturb anything else." The tone implied I was the one being imprudent, the one who overstepped boundaries. Her possessions? Instead of hauling them onto the sidewalk during the dead of night, I remained silent. The following morning, I departed before she arrived. I could not bear the thought of encountering her again so soon, not at this moment. I had no desire to witness her tears, her shouts, or any further demands from her. Her mere presence in that house felt akin to decay within its walls. Instead, I sought solace at my brother's residence, Ethan, who was 2 years younger and married with 2 children. Upon opening the door, he found me in disheveled attire. He didn't inquire about the circumstances. Instead, he merely looked at me and queried, "Are you staying for a while?" I assented with a nod. "Yes, if that's all right." He offered a consoling pat on the back. "You won't be sleeping on the couch. I'll prepare the guest room. It seems the essence of true family lies in comprehending calamities without the need for an explanation. They simply move to extricate you from them." That evening, I experienced a deep exhaustion, collapsing into Ethan's guest bed without removing my footwear, allowing sleep to strike me forcefully. Before I had a chance to react, a last message from her arrived. "Emily, I'll retrieve the remaining items tomorrow. Avoid being present. Avoid being present, coward." Even now, she couldn't confront me about what she had done. She desired an easy escape devoid of repercussions. She wished to disappear without the burden of reality bearing down on her. But this isn't a film. It's my life. And tomorrow she would witness the truth, standing amidst the wreckage she created. True to her word, she arrived at the appointed hour, 11 a.m. precisely. I ignored her text, unwilling to abandon my home so she could slink away from responsibility. No. I remained in the living room, poised, unruffled, as if I had a significant engagement elsewhere, although none was scheduled yet. She entered with a cardboard box and sunglasses, even on a cloudy day, the same scent of her perfume, once beloved, now inducing nausea, preceding her. Upon spotting me seated there, she halted at the doorway. "You promised you wouldn't be here," she murmured. "I never made a promise," I retorted. "You requested my absence." Her jaw stiffened. She entered and shut the door behind her, depositing her box near the stairs. I merely wanted to gather my belongings and depart. Then proceed. For a brief moment, she remained motionless. It appeared as though she was assessing the situation, perhaps. The couch lacked adornments. Her photographs on the wall had vanished. Books from the shelf were already packed away. I had accomplished half the task for her. "You rummaged through my possessions," she stated eventually. I moved towards the window, saying, "I relocated your items from my room, my wardrobe, my dwelling. The remaining items are what you left behind. You had no claim." I turned around. "No claim? No claim to tidy up the space you sullied? You forfeited your rights when you began posing in hotel rooms with another man's spouse." She recoiled slightly, but only subtly. "I don't wish to argue," she said, ultimately removing her sunglasses. Her eyes appeared bloodshot, not due to tears. I knew her well enough to understand it wasn't weeping, likely from sleepless nights or an urgent presentation for Casey or perhaps Brent. Regardless of the cause, it no longer mattered. "I'm not here to argue," I stated. "I'm here to witness your departure, this time with finality." She glanced around once more, her gaze landing on the envelope I had left on the kitchen counter, the same one from 2 days prior. She approached it slowly and reopened it, as if she needed a reminder that the illusion had ended. "You're not even going to make an effort?" she questioned without looking at me. "Make an attempt at what?" I responded. "To recover someone who deceived me daily for 6 months, who employed my trust as a disguise, who planned a future based on how underestimated they thought I was." For the first time, her voice cracked, not with feigned sorrow, but genuine rage. "I was unhappy, Mark. I didn't feel valued. You no longer noticed me. You didn't feel unnoticed. You felt unengaged. That silenced her. You yearned to be admired, adored. You sought to relive the feeling of being 25, and you found someone gullible enough to echo your desires. Instead of approaching me, your spouse, you opted for a novel experience." Her expression twisted, and I thought she might shed genuine tears, but she didn't. She suppressed them and retorted, "It wasn't supposed to be sincere." I moved nearer, yet it was substantial enough to deceive, significant enough to spend Thursdays with him and pretend nothing transpired when we parted, risky enough to jeopardize everything we constructed, for naught. I didn't intend to be ensnared by him, but you orchestrated everything else. She blinked. "So what next?" I asked. "You gather your possessions, you collect your deceptions, and you depart. No more messages, no more phone calls, no more updates on your emotions. And the divorce? It's underway." That took her aback. "You're genuine about this?" "Yes." After a prolonged while, I was exceptionally solemn. Her expression changed not from sadness, but from defeat, and it was then I understood that she hadn't believed I would follow through. Despite all the events, she assumed I'd waver, that my reliance on her was too strong to carry out my plans. Misconceived. She silently collected her belongings afterward. No more words, no more entreaties, just the grating noise of boxes moving and the departure of a deceiver from my life. When she departed, she didn't bid farewell. Appropriate. Neither did I suspect she was gone before midday. The door closed behind her without ceremony, without a lingering look, without "we can still communicate," without a false apology as a parting gesture. Just the sound of her footsteps down the pathway, the soft slam of her trunk, and then the hum of her engine fading into the distance. I remained in the entrance hall for a considerable time, motionless, listening, half hoping she would turn back. But she didn't. She departed as she had lived during those final 6 months, swiftly, strategically, and without a backward glance. Yet I cannot claim I felt liberated. Instead, I sensed a weightier sensation, akin to having one's skin peeled away to expose the nerves. The initial action I took was to open all the windows, each and every one. The dwelling still reeked of her, the lavender room spray, the extravagant coconut shampoo, the flowery dryer sheets she insisted on purchasing. I aired out everything, allowing the cool July breeze to sweep in. The quietness transformed into wind, offering relief. Then I began to act. I once more stripped the bed, this time reducing it to its frame. By myself, I dragged the mattress from the room, one clumsy pull at a time. Each item she had chosen was replaced, from every towel to every dish purchased from that overpriced home store. The fake eucalyptus plant she swore tied the room together. Rubbish. She permeated every corner. Yet now I was removing her traces. This wasn't done out of spite. Rather, it was a reclamation of my territory. The memories were the most challenging to handle. Not the framed images. There weren't many hung. Instead, the unseen moments. Her humming while doing laundry, feet bare on the counter, chatting about work, the towel hanging askew on the rack. It wasn't sorrow. It was erosion. The gradual, invisible wearing away of everything I believed to be solid. At around 2 p.m., the doorbell chimed. No one was expected. Upon opening, it was Ethan, my brother, bearing a 12-pack and a pizza box as if it were supplies from Battlefront. He predicted today might be tough. He entered without delaying. I remained silent at first, merely shutting the door behind him and trailing into the kitchen. He popped open a beer, sliding one towards me. Later, casually, he remarked, "I always disliked her." I glanced up. He shrugged. She possessed the false niceness, as if she rehearsed her laughter in the mirror. "You could have spoken out," he said after another sip. "Would you have been heard?" We remained quiet, him consuming food, me holding the bottle without drinking much. After a while, I posed the question I'd been pondering internally. Could it be that I was the issue? Ethan set down his slice of pizza. "You weren't," he replied. "How can you be sure?" "Because I know you, and I saw your efforts for her. Yet, what if she was correct? What if I stopped striving?" "She didn't want you to give up," he explained. "She wanted you to pursue." "There's a distinction," he said. "One is genuine. The other is a game." This hit me harder than anticipated. We spoke for hours following that, about trivial matters and deep topics. It was the first genuine dialogue I'd had in weeks that didn't feel like an examination. Upon his departure, I felt slightly less burdened. Still vulnerable, still shattered, but for the first time, I didn't feel isolated in my distress. That night, I sat on the porch with the lights off, alone in the darkness, and allowed myself to consider the future. Not the one we envisioned, the one I was preparing to reconstruct. The subsequent days merged into one another, tranquil yet mechanical, devoid of rhythm, yet they continued to progress. This was peculiar. Life persisted, unfaltering in the face of betrayal. The sun still ascended each morning, bills kept arriving, and dishes remained to be washed. What had altered within me was a subtle yet profound shift. Beneath the surface, there was an ache, persistent like the body's recollection of pain even after the injury has healed. Emily did not reach out to me again. No calls, texts, or veiled attempts via social media. She was gone, as I had advised, but her presence lingered everywhere. Not physically, no. More like residue. Everywhere I went, reminders surfaced. The corner coffee shop where she used to sip from my cup without admitting her liking for oat milk. The song on the radio that used to echo while she applied makeup. I ventured into the refrigerator to discover the unfinished jar of weekly purchased mango salsa, a remnant of her shopping habit. Grief doesn't adhere to reason or routine. It spirals and halts unexpectedly, even during an ordinary supermarket excursion, where tears may brim at the sight of cucumbers. One day, roughly a week after she departed, I arrived home to find an unmarked envelope on the porch. Inside were the house keys and her wedding ring, without any accompanying message or rationale. Only metal and silence resided within. I stared at that ring for what seemed like an eternity. Once a symbol of profound meaning, it now appeared cold and vacant, as though it had never held significance. I didn't weep, but instead, I experienced something I hadn't felt since this ordeal began. Righteous fury. Not outbursts or destruction, but a deep, focused anger. I retrieved the ring, climbed the stairs, opened the bottom drawer of my desk where I stored the divorce documents I'd been preparing to file. I signed each and every one of them without a moment's hesitation or doubt. My name appeared repeatedly, as if I was chiseling myself out of an agreement I never consented to. I didn't inform her, nor did I text or warn her. The paperwork served as the messenger. That evening, I went out by myself. To a bar I hadn't visited in years. I wasn't seeking conversation or trying to escape my feelings. I merely desired solace at a location where no one recognized me as Emily's spouse. I requested a drink, took a seat at the end of the bar, and observed people laugh, flirt, deceive each other about their professions and motivations. For the first time in a long while, I didn't envy them, because I was no longer pretending. The decision to end our marriage was mine 3 weeks after she departed, and I found her sweater in the dryer. The worn gray jacket with a torn sleeve she donned when either drunk or feigning comfort, that was it. It bore a scent of dryer sheets mixed with a lingering trace of her perfume that persisted despite attempts to fade. For a moment, I grasped it, then thrust it into the trash impulsively. That's how things stand now. No more hoarding fragments of her as if they were mementos from a battle I hadn't enlisted in. No more attempting to decipher the past in search of where it fractured. It fractured due to her actions. She surveyed our constructed life and deemed it insufficiently thrilling. Not glossy enough, not novel. Thus, she ignited the match. Now I wasn't sweeping up ashes anymore. I was rebuilding. The divorce documents moved swiftly. Swiftly indeed, almost too fast. Apparently, when infidelities are involved, courts prioritize efficiency. My lawyer, a shrewd, composed woman named Amanda, scarcely inquired. She glanced at the folder of evidence I provided. Photos, texts, receipts, and simply stated that this wouldn't take long. During our second conversation, I inquired if she ever grew weary of observing others unraveling. She considered my question momentarily before replying negatively. What astounded me was the number of individuals who remained. This notion lingered with me, for I too nearly stayed. Had I not listened to my intuition, had I not sought aid, and if I continued justifying the peculiarities as merely stress, hormones, or a passing phase, I'd still be trapped in deceit. Sharing a bed with someone who addressed me as darling, while covertly texting another under the table. The situation made me queasy, yet it also filled me with gratitude. On one occasion, I found myself on the back porch, beer in hand, contemplating my past self. Not the Mark who was betrayed, not the Mark who constructed a life with a woman who destroyed it, but simply myself, the individual I used to be familiar with, the one who cherished lengthy drives, unsightly dives, and overly syrupy Sunday morning pancakes, the one who harbored ambitions, who didn't rely on others for validation. The man hadn't diminished himself to please others. He merely fell silent, submerged beneath a mountain of concessions, false cheer, and hollow reassurances. I recognized the empty affirmations at the end of futile discussions. That night, under the stars, cool and serene, for the first time since she departed, I allowed myself to miss her. Not in the hope of her return, but to truly experience the void, the emptiness, the hurt, and eventually let it flow through me. I spoke softly. "Farewell, Emily." The words didn't reverberate. They simply ceased. Crisp. The day the divorce was finalized felt like a confluence of funeral and rebirth. I chose not to attend court. My attorney managed everything. Emily signed. No dispute, no struggle. She likely knew she lacked solid ground. Perhaps Brent was offering her a new life with hotel linens and clandestine words shared in parking lots. I opted not to inquire. I had no desire for knowledge. 12:00 p.m. saw an email from Amanda with the subject, "Finalized." Her message read, "It's done. You're free." The word free struck me powerfully, a combination of a blow and a dissent. I scrutinized it for minutes on end, rereading it as if seeking validation. I needed it to be true, to confirm that she couldn't wound me anymore, that she no longer held sway over my tomorrow. I climbed into my car and navigated the open road. My destination was indeterminate. My journey forward was all that mattered. The sun shone brightly, a gentle blue I hadn't truly noticed in weeks. I drove with the windows down, music muted, mind vacant. Midway through, I halted at a small roadside diner we'd often bypass en route to her parents' home. We never entered. She found it shady, but I always yearned to explore its depths. So I pulled over, stepped inside alone, settled at a booth, and requested pancakes and black coffee. They were exceptional. I savored each bite, basking in the serenity, reveling in the peace of anonymity. Here, no one recognized me. No one regarded me as the man whose wife had betrayed him. I wasn't a headline or a sad tale. I was merely a man savoring pancakes on his own terms. Later, I found myself at a tranquil lake near the city, a place I hadn't visited since high school. In the past, I would come here to think when life seemed too complex with its trivial struggles. Poor grades, arguments with friends, my father's silence after I declared my disinterest in joining the family business. I parked, exited, and sat on my car hood, gazing at the water. I surrendered to the moment, with no agenda, no stress, no pretense. It was just me, the lake, and a gentle, quiet calmness that I had missed for months. I pondered what I would say if Emily ever reached out again, only to realize that I wouldn't respond. Not from anger, not from ego, but because there was nothing left to express. She had made her decisions, and now I was making mine. It's been 2 months since Emily left my life, and I chose not to chase her. The ring is missing, her scent has vanished from the drapes. The lavender air freshener swapped for sandalwood. The playlist played during Sunday cleaning, erased. My home no longer feels like ours, it feels solitary, tranquil. There's no palpable stress in the atmosphere, no hesitation over my words, no dread each time her phone vibrates. Instead, there's silence, and unexpectedly, understanding. I've learned more in these 2 months than I did in the last 2 years of our marriage. About myself, about limits, about how simple it is to shrink when someone you care for treats you as an obstacle. Now I understand that love shouldn't feel like persuading someone to remain. It shouldn't rely on vigilance and suspicion or keeping tabs and hiding proof. Love isn't a trial. It's not supposed to feel like a tightrope walk where you continuously bleed to keep the other content. What Emily did wasn't an unintentional act or oversight. It was a calculated deception, hidden behind falsehoods and alibis, designed to deceive me as she constructed a covert life. However, I've come to a realization. She didn't shatter me individually. She destroyed us as a unit. But here's the truth. I'm still alive. I'm standing. I'm breathing. I'm rebuilding. I've resumed running, have joined a gym, and spend my Fridays not for drinking or flirting or escapism, but to coexist with others, with laughter, with the knowledge that there exists life beyond deception. I've rekindled relationships with old acquaintances, people I had unknowingly drifted away from because all my focus was on mending a relationship that was already failing. Last week, I even went on a date. Nothing profound, just coffee. But it felt genuine, simple, free of deceit and hostility. It was 2 people conversing, smiling, being acknowledged. I'm unsure what lies ahead. For the first instance in a while, I find myself content with this state. If you're encountering something analogous, let me express this. You don't have to remain faithful to someone who wields your loyalty as a weapon. You don't owe someone your quietness while they undermine you with theirs. And it doesn't make you weak to depart. On the contrary, it demonstrates strength when you recognize when it's time to cease wounding yourself for someone unwilling to aid your healing. Emily departed, but I remained. Now I'm commencing anew. Mark.